Hey everybody, CJ here again. So I'm dealing with this radio that I'm making, and I get a wild hair and decide I want to see the waveform that it's picking up. And this is nothing that I've not seen before. Okay, I know what to expect, but I got to thinking, you guys would probably like to see that because most of you, if you're starting out with this and you're following along to learn it, you may or may not know what an oscilloscope is, and even if you do know, you may or may not have one. So I do have one. They're not exactly cheap, okay? The one that I've got, I asked my father to search for online for me, and I had him buy it. I paid him back, and it only cost me about $100. But the thing is, it's as old as I am, okay? And it's kind of limited in its capabilities. It's an analog scope. It is a storage oscilloscope, but here again, analog, and that means it doesn't interface with a computer. It doesn't have a lot of the nicer controls. It doesn't have an LCD screen that a lot of people like. It is a truly analog device, and frankly, I prefer analog. But as we go forward with technology, it's good to have your scopes be able to keep up. So there are basically two main waveforms that we're focusing on here. The first one is the carrier wave. Let's say that I'm tuning AM 600. Well, the carrier wave will be 600 kilohertz, and it's a sine wave of 600 kilohertz. And that gives us a frequency, but it doesn't give us an amplitude or voltage. And the voltage really depends on how strong the signal is. This is a fairly strong signal, this radio station I've tuned in. I don't think it's AM 600. It may be AM 1320 or AM 1220 or AM 12345 or whatever. Okay, I don't know. I haven't heard them identify themselves. I did not pick the station for its content. It's a sports talk radio station. I'm not into sports. I mean, if I was, I wouldn't be messing with this stuff. Am I right? So I'm not into sports, and I don't have any control over the words that they may use during their broadcast. I don't have any control over the subject matter. I only picked the station because it's a strong station. So that 600 or whatever it is kilohertz signal shows up pretty strong on my scope. It's got a pretty good amplitude. The second waveform that you see is basically superimposed on top of the first one. This is amplitude modulation. So while you have one waveform going up and down, okay, you also have a second one superimposed on it, and you're actually taking the audio, okay, modulating it for amplitude, and as you hear the person speak, the amplitude, gets bigger. Kind of like you're taking a puppet and talking with a puppet, right? So if you can imagine that the amplitude of the audio coming out of the puppeteer's mouth matches the spread of the puppet's mouth, right? Then you can probably imagine taking that same waveform and moving it up and down with your carrier wave. So I know that's kind of hard to visualize, but that's why I do it that way. Not because it's hard to visualize, but because you're taking one waveform and moving that waveform at the speed of the carrier wave, okay, up and down. So you're modulating the carrier wave with that audio. Now, how does that get demodulated? That's something I'm going to have to go look up. I've had it explained to me a couple dozen times, and honestly, it's something I don't use. And because I don't use, it's not because I'm not interested, I just simply forget it because I don't use it. I lose it. So I'm going to try to remember to look that up. But in case I don't, that's your homework for this week. So we're looking for two main waveforms. We have the carrier wave and we have the modulation underneath that carrier wave. And that's what I've got going right now. So I'm going to turn the speakers up and then I'm going to shut up. I'm going to turn the speakers up loud enough you can hear it, and then I'm going to bring it over here and show you the waveform. Okay? Here we go.
At bat, he had at bat limits. He couldn't at bat every time. That to me just it takes away from his actual performance. The fact that they were babying him, and the fact that it's his third year in the NBA. He's been getting checks in the NBA for 3 years, and this is the first time he stepped on the court. Best job. I'm not.
So this is obviously the modulation you're seeing.
Eligible to be a rookie because he's played.
I've got my scope set for a pretty low frequency. We're looking at the audio frequency.
First year, second year, but this guy missed his first year and his second year, and now it's his third year.
Or the audio component, I should say.
How's that happen?
Now I'm going up into the radio component, and there we start to see it. This is the carrier wave.
There was no minutes. There was no minutes restriction. No, he had 50. He played 50.
You'll notice that carrier wave fluctuates a little bit. If I can get my camera stable.
Don't play too much. He only played 20 minutes. He played 20%. 20% of the available minutes that the Sixers can play this year. But here's the argument. The argument is this: the 20% that he's playing. Is it far more effective than, say, the 80 minutes Dario Saric
that's basically it.
Or the 80 minutes that, Buddy Hield or Yogi... Well, Yogi Ferrell, by the way, has played even less games. Let's take him out. But even Buddy Hield...
And you can see I'm getting a little bit of a burn in from that.
But he's dominant in those 20%, right? And what, he gets hurt. Okay, but still, I mean, better... So he plays 20% at a time out of, 50-some games that they played so far. Yeah. And he's hurt. And there's another,
now that I've lost the focus on my phone,
little under a quarter of the season left.
We'll turn that back down. So like I say, I'm going to try to research that and find out how it is that this circuit down here takes the audio component out of that signal. I suspect that it doesn't. What I think is actually happening with such a basic circuit as this is I think that we have the signal come down from the antenna and the coils and all that. The coils lock in on that carrier wave, and that entire wave is passed in to the audio amplification system. And because the audio amplification system doesn't technically see anything over 20 kilohertz, the radio portion of that wave, the radio sine wave, is lost, keeping only the audio portion of that wave, the modulation, and what you hear is simply the modulation. Although honestly, that amplitude really should be converted to a frequency, so I'm not sure how that happens, because with amplitude, you don't hear amplitude, you hear frequency. You hear different tones. A note on a keyboard, a note on a piano, has a specific frequency, and that's what you're hearing is the frequency. You're not hearing its amplitude. The amplitude is how loud it is. Its volume. But I'll try to remember to look into that. And in case I don't, like I say, that'll be your homework for this week, is to find out how such a simple circuit can demodulate amplitude into an audio form. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, I just wanted to share that with you all, and you can kind of get an idea of what it is that we're looking at here, and the basic concept of radio carrier waves, radio modulation. So until my next video, it may be a day or 3. I don't know, because I am just dead tired. I need to get in bed. It's been great. I hope you all enjoy this. If you do, feel free to hit one of those subscribe buttons. It's somewhere down there in the bottom. And until next time, have a good night. Take care.